Hi everyone, and in this video I'll be discussing the cost of rebuilding an LS 6.0 liter engine. Hi everyone, and welcome to the channel about building a kit car and other car topics like building an LS engine. And if you like what you see, please subscribe and hit the notification buttons below and share with others on social media. Well, here comes the numbers of my budget build. Did I say budget build? Yeah, right. So let's throw that out the window, but let's take a look at this respectable beast. One of the things that's been really interesting through this process is me telling people that I rebuilt an engine, and they're like, oh, okay, whatever. And so I'll grab my phone and I'm like, oh, here's what I bought. And they're looking at it like, wow, that's great. And they're seeing this, Vortec engine with all these miles on it. It's all greasy, nasty, and a big hunk of junk. And then I'm like, yeah, and here's what I did to it. And then all of a sudden they're like, whoa. And all of a sudden, like, they have total respect for me. They're like shocked at what I did. And it's been really fascinating because literally every single person that I've showed them, it was that kind of reaction of like, I don't really care what you're showing me. And then it was like, oh my God, how did you do that? That's amazing. So little pat in the back. That was really cool to see from people, but very nice. So far the total of this engine is around $6,000. And that includes the price of the engine, buying it as is, but I have all these parts that I'll sell off the engine, which will pay for the initial cost of the engine. So far, I've actually sold a bunch of stuff and I've recovered about $1,000 back. And I still have about half of the parts left. So that's kind of a bonus here that I'm kind of getting some of that money back. As we look at the parts of this engine, the initial cost of this engine was $1,600. Now, I said that I actually sold some of those parts off and I got some money back. I'm not factoring that in here right now. I'm factoring that into my total cost of the whole build. But for the engine right now, most people are going to buy an engine and maybe give away the parts or whatever. So I just want some realistic numbers here. The other thing is the machine shop did a bunch of things for me and kind of gave me this, total price. And so what I kind of did is kind of spread out some of these numbers since it was all kind of like jammed into one and what made sense of, how much different things cost. So, but, the springs, the cam kit with the springs came out to be about $370, which is total steel. It's a great price because usually it could be up to $500 just for the cam. We have the master engine rebuild kit that didn't have pistons, but it came with a timing chain, came with the oil pump, all that stuff. That was $525. So a lot of things came with that all together. It was really nice to just grab this and go. Some really nice hydraulic roller lifters for $134. We got the stock GM head bolts, oil valley plugs. That was actually not too bad actually for replacing those. The ARP bolts, of course, $99. If you replaced all the bolts on an engine with ARP, you would have like $1,000 into just the bolts, which I just find absurd. And I know it's great stuff and I have no problem with the quality control and what it does. But to go from, a $2 bolt to like a $25 bolt, like it just seems a little bit absurd. So I got some Manley push rods. That was $115. The oil pump came in the kit, so I don't have anything there. I didn't buy any new knock sensors for the Valley, so that was $0. I bought some NGK spark plugs. That was $60. And I got the 302. That was $375. Oil filter was only $5. Now there's a bunch of different ones that you could use. And right now I'm just using kind of a generic one for the color, if you will. And because I know that as soon as I use this engine up and turn it on and, put 100 miles on it, I'm going to have to replace that filter anyways. Because if there's ever going to be particles, it's going to be right when you start that engine up. So we want to get those out of there as quick as possible. So I just threw on something for now just to seal it up so it's not breathing air and rusting or anything inside. One of the most expensive things I bought was these titanium manifolds, but they really look cool. You know, everything I'm doing is a little bit of a satin look. Not everything is satin, but most of it's satin or a little bit more flat, and it just gives it a little bit of a toughness, which I really enjoy. So that was $450. That was kind of a cha-ching. And then all this stuff in blue is stuff that's coming down the line, but is not needed until later. And I'm almost purposely not buying it because I might change my mind by the time I get, you know, to the car. So of course my favorite is the valve covers with the LSX 376 on there. That's awesome. Those were a little pricey, $345, but I think it's kind of the accent to the engine that looks awesome. Then we have the mid-rise intake, which also included the fuel rails, and that was $700. So that was probably the most expensive part that I have put on this engine, was the intake. The throttle body that I ended up getting was, I think, the one with the bronze, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't looked at it in a while. And that's the other thing with me. I'll do a ton of research, and I'll remember that I had this big decision to make, and then I never remember what the decision was. It was made and it was done, but I never remember but I remember thinking about that decision that I had to make, but I never remember the final decision. That's totally bizarre. So anyways, $150 for that. That was actually a really good price. These things kind of go anywhere from $199 to like $350. So that was a good thing. Now, the one thing I didn't expect to be so expensive was the fuel injectors. And originally when I was doing this build, I was thinking about just buying a used like LS6 intake that had the rails, the fuel injectors, and all that stuff on there. And so I was like, oh, you know, I'll just pick everything up for whatever it was, $200, $300. But since I had to replace my intakes and get higher pound pressure intakes because of the horsepower I was going to do and all that, and I wanted brand new stuff because I just didn't want to dick around with, you know, used stuff and, oh, some of these are clogged or, you know, one's failing or whatever. I bought new ones, and man, this was on sale. I paid $333, but normally it would have been like $400, and that's just absurd. But price, you got to pay to play, right? So map sensor I had to get, $24, little map sensor. And then I have a mass air sensor that I'm keeping from the truck. So that's one thing that I'm hoping is going to work out for what I'm doing. So when you total that all up, it's around $6,000 just for the stuff that we're talking about of what I've done. Now, what's coming down the pike? The next thing is a PSI wiring harness, possibly an upgrade to the computer, but I think since I'm going to get it locally tuned, I shouldn't have to pay for that. We have to deal with coil relocators, the mounts for the coil relocators, the wires to hook up the spark plugs and everything from those relocated coils. And I just actually sold my coils to somebody, and out of all the things that I was selling, that was the one thing that, like, you know, if I sell them, great. If I don't, maybe I'll reuse them. Well, they sold. And so I'm like, all right, I have to buy all new coils, and I feel better about that with keeping a nice clean car, all brand new stuff in there. But at the same time, I know that's kind of like the fuel injectors. It's going to zing me for the price, but it is what it is. Air filter, one of the last things I'm going to buy. So I'm getting a 4L60E automatic transmission, and it was suggested to me to get a Monster heavy duty and then a Roadrunner torque converter. And so with this car, it's so light that you have to have a high stall. Otherwise, you'll be putting your foot on the brake and the car's just going to keep going and you're not going to stop. So everybody doesn't believe you when you say you need a 3200 to 3500 stall, but time and time again, it has proven that that's what I need because the car is so light. This transmission installation kit, I think that comes with a flex plate and all that stuff, so I actually don't need that. I'll take that out of there. And then finally, I got all my low-car oil dipsticks and all that kind of stuff that I want to put on because I want to, you know, either have chrome or black or whatever it's going to be. And so, you know, kind of putting these out there. And again, these are all things that will change down the road when I finally figure out what color I'm painting the car. So I put an idea down of what I'm going to do and what the price is approximately, and whenever it happens, it happens. Now the coolest thing that I'm putting on the car is the March Performance drive system. This is your bling for the whole engine. Now what's great about this company is they powder coat a clear coat on top of their, whether you got black, billet aluminum, whatever you got going on. And so when you put that clear powder coat, and this is the only company I see doing this, no one else does it, you never have to polish that aluminum. It is sealed in, it will stay clear the whole time, and grime's gonna wipe off very easily. So, I want to drive this car. Yes, it's going to be showy, but I still want to drive this car. And I don't want to sit there and go, oh, why did I drive this car? Now it's going to take me 6 hours with a polish rag to polish it up because I want to take it to a car show. So that's really cool. And when you buy the March Performance system, it comes with the water pump that matches. So you don't have to buy that separately. So that's really cool. And as I mentioned before, I had to get the Camaro harmonic balancer to go with this car. So right now I'm about $6,000 in, and once you add the trans and all these other things that are coming down the pike, still to get, I got about $6,500 left. So right now we got about $6,000 into the engine. I did make $1,000 in parts back, so technically I'm out of pocket $5,000. And for what I've done and totally changing the look, the valve color covers, the oil pan, the mid-rise intake, the throttle body, the fuel injectors, the fuel rails. I mean, I changed a lot of stuff on this engine, and that's not a bad price. I'm still remembering back to when the one machine shop was like, oh, it's going to be $4,000 just to, revamp your engine and put the internal parts in it. We're not even talking about the outside. We're just talking about rebuilding the inside. And it was like, yeah, right, buddy. I'm not going to put that much money into it. This is a street machine. I'm not drag racing or anything. So I'm actually really happy with this price. I'm not happy that it's going to be, $13,000 when I'm done. But at the same time, let's say you bought a brand new engine. And since this is a hot rod, I don't think a Corvette engine looks correctly in this hot rod. Not that it's horrible, but if you want it to look vintage, so now you buy a new engine for, let's say, $8,000, and you tear all this stuff off, and then you have to buy all these parts anyways and put it back on to get it to this look. Well, now you're going to be $17,000 in, or $10,000 in, or 12 or 13 or whatever as you're adding all these parts on. So I thought it was appropriate in my situation to just go ahead and rebuild the engine, put in all the new parts, and I would come close to what a brand new engine was anyways, but now I got the look and I'm not compromising. And I've gone through the process. I've learned a lot. I've got a relationship with a machine shop now that I trust, and the whole process is great. So that's an update on the cost of doing an LS engine rebuild. I'm assuming with this rebuild that I'm going to be hitting somewhere around, 500 horsepower. Comment below if you guys know, you've worked with some of these parts with a 6-liter engine, 30 over, and has a hot cam. And it has 36-pound injectors with the Holley mid-rise and a 92 millimeter throttle body. What do you think it's going to get? Comment below. Let me know your best thoughts. But I'm thinking, 450 to 500, somewhere in that range. But I'm not really sure. We started at 325. Maybe we're only at 400 or 375, which is totally fine for me. I don't care because it's a light car. But please comment below. Let me know what you think, since some of you guys have been around the block a few times, and this is my first time doing it. So until next time, hope you enjoy it. Feel free to subscribe and hit the notification button, and we'll see you next time.